I think maybe one of the best ways to think about the Legends books are envision yourself around a campfire. Coruscant's a long ways away, the holonet fails periodically, so you don't get much news out here. And while you're on your second set of s'mores, somebody says, hey, have you ever heard the story of Luke Skywalker and Grand Admiral Thrawn? And he tells you this marvelous tale, and by the time you're in your sleeping bag, you don't know if that was true, based on truth, completely made up, but you enjoyed the story. The other way to think of it is legends are Robin Hood, King Arthur, Paul Bunyan, Pecos Bill. It's good company to be in, to be a legend. But they're the stories you tell around the campfire. It really isn't a transition so much as defining of his purpose in life. His goal in life is the protection of the Chiss ascendancy and his people. Everything he does comes from that goal. So in the original trilogy, he's working for the Empire. He has seen the chaos of the Clone Wars. He expects the New Republic to fall the same way that the Old Republic did. He knows there are threats to the Chiss ascendancy out in the unknown regions. He needs this part of the galaxy to have a strong, stable military he can draw on if he needs to. So that is why he throws in his lot with the Empire. These are the people I think will be best for me to use to defend my people. You can argue that his decisions went wrong, but the goal is still the same, and you can't argue with the goal. I want to protect my people.
Yeah, it's like I found that motivation interesting. It's like either I'm going to help these people become a strong ally or prevent them from becoming a threat, one or the other.
Yeah. Yes, that's very cool. Pellaeon is one of my favorites, and yeah, it's great to have seen him. I hope we see more of him in the next parts of Ahsoka. Maybe he'll get his own series. That would be cool too.
That's the
and
same
besides,
thing.
And Thrawn is pretty good too.
Yeah, he's also there. But yeah,
Yes.
Honestly, they showed that clip of him in The Mandalorian at Star Wars Celebration. I leapt up. I was so excited to see him too.
I think one of the questions was, have you ever had, to Lars Mikkelsen, have you ever had that much reaction to a view of the back of your neck, the back of your head? As far as input into the shows is concerned, nothing. They have shown me some things in advance. And with season 3 of Rebels, since I was doing the backstory in the book Thrawn, they were feeding me scripts, so I saw what they were doing. But I have not had any real consultation. They've not asked for any input. And they are very busy with other things. They know where to find me if they want me. But yeah, no, I haven't had any input into the series. I would love to have some. I generally put it this way: from our house to Lucasfilm, the Presidio, is about a 10-hour drive. I will make it in 8 if they call. You know going in that everything you write is property of Lucasfilm. You either accept that and grit your teeth, or you don't sign and go on to some other project. Yeah, I would like to have full control over the character. I think my input would help just the same way Lucasfilm's and my editor's input help my books become better. Simply, it's another set of eyes with a different set of blind spots. But if they don't want my assistance for whatever reason, and there are a lot of good reasons, Hollywood doesn't think novelists know how to write TV and movies, that kind of medium. In many cases, they're probably right, we don't. I would love to have input into it. At the moment, I haven't. They have promised me a couple of times or suggested they will call me in at some point, but as they say, they're very busy with so many projects. I'm not really concerned that I've been frozen out or anything. It's just that they're too busy with other things to get in touch with me. I'm still hoping, but no, I have not been helping write scripts or anything like that. I can see them heading the direction of rewriting, taking the basic story and recasting some of the characters. I think it will work if they do it right. Filoni has a history of doing things right, certainly with Thrawn. So I would be very interested in seeing how that is. What I would keep, basic storyline, the only way to beat Thrawn is to give him something he can't anticipate or something he can't control. Because you give him all knowledge, all control, he will eventually win. But Filoni understands that as well. So yeah, recasting the story, redoing the story. In fact, I thought about this years ago before the sequels. You could take the story and instead of Luke, Han, Leia, have their kids be the protagonists. That way you'd skip the generation the way Lucas had set up with the prequels and the classic movies. So there are a lot of things they could take from my books that would be good fit with what I wrote, and yet recasting, recharacterizing the various antagonists, protagonists, etc. The thing they would want to keep, of course, is Thrawn at the center point of it all. I met Rosario Dawson a few months ago at a convention, and she said, "I'm going to win." And I said, "You're going to have to work at it," which I think is the way you want to do fiction anyway. You want the good guys to win, but they have to make it, it has to be hard for them. Because otherwise, you don't want Luke Skywalker going up against field mice. You want him going up against a Demogorgon or something. So yeah, the stronger the villain, the stronger or more clever the hero has to be. And that's the best kind of stories. Oh, that was great. I am always amazed when actors actually know who a writer is, but she knew. We've met Diana Lee Inosoto. We got to meet Iman, I've always lose his last name, Ezra, and he was very excited to meet me, as vice versa. And Lars Mikkelsen is wonderful, of course. So yeah, it was a great weekend of meeting all the new cast of Star Wars, the people meeting up with Thrawn. We knew a lot of the animation voices as well, and they're all lovely people, every one of them. It's not necessarily knowledge of the Force. Think of the last battle, season 3 of Rebels. He has got the Rebels blocked in with interdictors, and he is going to move in for the kill. Okay, what are the things he can't control? One is Constantine being an idiot, pulling his thing out of his interdictor out of position. Second thing he's not in control of is he's been ordered to take prisoners. If he can bombard them from orbit, kill them all, he wins. And the third thing he can't anticipate is the Bendu. He can't anticipate that. But any one of those three doesn't fall that direction, and he will win that. So it's not just he doesn't understand the Force, it's also that when he's under control of somebody else, he never has full control, because that's just how military and political hierarchies work. I'm sure it has, and I'm guessing he spent some time with Ezra out there. That is my hope, that he will have something of that, a history, before they fell out and Ezra went elsewhere. But we'll find out what Filoni has in mind. But yeah, definitely he'll have some more knowledge of the Force, and we'll see where Filoni is going with this. But he's got some really good potential set up for season 2. There's a 9-year gap. Whatever Filoni has come up with for backstory of that gap, however detailed or not detailed, I know I could write it as a good story. The only question is when Dave will decide, okay, I'm set to turn this loose to somebody else, if he ever does. How detailed it is, I can work through any details that Dave has put into it. I didn't have a lot of story, just some basic ideas, knowing that we don't know the end point of that 9 years yet. Now that we do, there are a lot of factors I had not anticipated, would never have anticipated, but yeah, I can work these into a story. So many of us writers, give us something we can work with. We can do something with it. The next year is the 50th anniversary of the first story I wrote. Not the first one I sold or published, but I've been at this half a century. I've figured out how I write stories. Well, that was great because when my editor proposed the Ascendancy trilogy, we were just finishing up the Imperial trilogy, which meant that we're running into where Ezra and Thrawn disappear. I've done post-return. What's left of Thrawn's life that hasn't been written? Well, there's this period before he comes to the Empire. So it was pitched to me as this is younger Thrawn, this is dealing with threats to his people out in the unknown regions, the chance to build the whole culture up, because everything that was written about the Chiss, some things of which I thought were, no, I don't agree with this at all. That's all legends, I can ignore it. So I could build the society and then build the characters and write a Thrawn story around all of them. So it was, and as you say, I'm not stepping on anybody else's toes. I'm way off camera over there. That was very much the ideal way to write Star Wars. Pick a place that nobody else is working in, character that I'm familiar with, create all the other characters that populate the Ascendancy and the threats around them. No, that was a lot of fun. I would love to go back to that when I can get Lucasfilm to hold still long enough to listen to story pitches. If you think Filoni is busy, Story Group is even busier because I've got all of Dave's stuff and everybody else's stuff to deal with. So, but I've got a dozen pitches to send to them next time we get a chance to talk. Well, I mean, there's some things that just can't be reconciled. In Legends, Chewbacca died. In Canon, he lived through the sequels. So things like that there are a lot of things you can slip between the cracks. And some of these Legend things do not contradict anything in current canon. Now, some of those gaps may be filled in later on. The analogy that Bill Slavicsek used to talk about from West End Games was we are all, the novelists, the game writers, the comic book writers, we're all being allowed to play in George Lucas's driveway with our toys. If when he backs his truck out, some of those toys get run over, we have no cause to complain. The Thrawn trilogy is putting you to the edge. We got a couple of winged a little bit, but not too badly. Other people, anybody who had done a history of Boba Fett, all that stuff got wiped out. People who killed Chewbacca got that stuff wiped out. So there are a lot of things that do not contradict current canon, but I can see Lucasfilm not wanting to, okay, this page is canon, these 5 pages are not, et cetera, et cetera. A good example in the third Ascendancy book, Lesser Evil, I have a lot of the history of outbound flight from the Chiss point, the Chiss sections of that Lucasfilm had no problems with me putting in. If I tried to bring any of the Obi-Wan Anakin in, they might have balked, but as long as it was just the Chiss, okay, outbound flight is Legends, but these sections, Thros and some of those other incidents, are now canon. So there is a sort of hybrid. The Thrawn trilogy is Legends, but Thrawn is canon. So there is a melding, there is a mixture going on in there. Anything in Legends that contradicts something that's been stated in canon, obviously the Legends gets crushed under that. Anything that hasn't, until it gets crushed, you can pretend it's canon, even if Lucasfilm doesn't say so. Head canon is what we call that. So yeah, there are a lot of things in canon that don't contradict and would work fine. We did not talk about the Yuuzhan Vong, so maybe they didn't exist and all those books are out. On the other hand, they didn't say there wasn't an invasion between the classic movies and the sequels, so Who knows? They're being very careful with that. They're using scalpels, not machetes, I think. Leland Shee years ago, before any of this happened, before the sale and all of even Story Group, he said once that everything in Star Wars is somebody's favorite thing. And for that reason, you tread gently. You don't want to just knock out something because you don't particularly care for it if it's not in the way of something you need to do. Because somebody really liked that thing. And they brought the Green Bunny back in from the Marvel comics. So again, they're trying to not just lay waste to all of it. But when it's a conflict between what they want to do in canon and what the legend said, and frankly, the legends, I think there were at least 3 times Han got the Falcon from Lando that are contradictory. So legends did not hold continuity all that well sometimes either. It happened. We had a bunch of different people doing novels, a whole bunch of people doing comic books, games, etc. So my take is that when Lucasfilm decided to go, get rid of the legends, the attitude was, everybody get off the stage while we decide what we're doing, and we can invite you back in as we've got a spot for you. Not just Thrawn, but the Dathomir witches. That was Dave Wolverton came up with those, and they came in as early as Clone Wars. So I can see why you don't want to have multiple timelines and the comics periodically clean out everything and start new. I don't think they like doing it, but they have to because it's gotten so overgrown when they're bringing a story per month out for each of these characters. So I understand, I sympathize with the why can't we have legends and canon, but I can see the point of view that would just be confusing to everybody. Let's try to keep Star Wars coherent, consistent, make a real history out of it. And these are stories people tell. And a real history works that way too. George Washington did not throw a dollar over the Delaware, did not cut down a cherry tree and tell his father he did it. So we've got these things coming into even real history, which we really ought to have down pretty pat by now. Yeah, the Icarus Saga. It's a 6-book series with a prequel I did 20 odd years ago. I'm finishing that up for Baen Books. I've got a series working with David Weber called Manticore Ascendant. Has no relation to the Ascendancy trilogy. We just happened to pick those, the same word modified. I've got a couple of short stories in the work. I've got some people have been talking to me here about game writing or some work for games. Various other ideas I want to pitch to various editors. I gave one editor today the 1-minute elevator pitch, and he said, sure, write it up. Talk to your agent. So I've got things yet to do, and I'm still hoping that sometime it will cross that, past that corner, and Story Group's ready to talk now. Let's see what you got. There is the Obi-Wan story that I think would fit in, but they probably wouldn't let me do. It's the Obi-Wan dropping off baby Luke on Tatooine, then going off someplace making a loud nuisance of himself to draw attention away and let the trail go cold. Talked to John Jackson Miller. He said there are other Jedi who can do that. Obi-Wan's job is to babysit Luke, so that's probably out. I'd like to bring Talon Card back into canon. That would be good. There are other stories with other characters, don't involve Thrawn. In fact, there are a couple that don't even involve movie characters if they're worried about future series like Obi-Wan that I don't want to step on any part of the history. I could pitch a dozen stories to them basically right now. So I'd love to do more with Thrawn. I'd like to do more with the Chiss. But that's entirely up to Lucasfilm if they want me to do that.
Your Thrawn donut story was
The
very
Thrawn
compelling.
donut story.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, Thrawn donut was my pitch for a Thrawn book that doesn't have Thrawn in it. Hence the donut.
I have heard this, yes.
You
okay.
have heard that, yeah. And there was Pablo Hidalgo's idea of getting a lot of Star Wars artists to do pictures, paintings, alien art, and me doing Thrawn's commentary on them. table, coffee table type book.
That's fun.
The problem with that is, of course, hurting artists. Apparently as hard as hurting cats. So, again, lots of possibilities. One of the other problems, and it may be part of the problem I'm having getting Lucasfilm to sit down, is everything in Star Wars right now is a moving target. I've heard horror stories from Star Trek writers of, I'm halfway through a book and the Next Generation episode this week just eliminated the whole thing, just circumvented it. I really don't want to be in that position. I don't think Lucasfilm wants me there either. So it may be until some things start settling down or they've got a really full future history of what's going to happen. It may not be until then that they want to, okay, let's hear what idea you've got. Let's see if it'll fit here. So all sorts of good, legitimate, good reasons for me not to have any Star Wars contracts yet. But as was pointed out, I'm 73 today, so, clock's ticking. I know the obituary now will never say he died tragically young. However, I would love to do more Star Wars, but as I said, when the Disney purchase came and such, at that point I'd done 10 Star Wars novels, about 19 short stories. If this is all I get to do with Star Wars, I've made my mark, I've had fun, I'm content. Repeat that with 16 Star Wars books. If that's all I get to do, I'm very happy with it. What changes is the environment he's among. In the original Thrawn trilogy, he is in command of the Empire. His difficulties doing politics never comes into play. He gives an order, they obey it. The Imperial trilogy, he's under the control of the fleet, the military hierarchy, and the political hierarchy. So he does not have full freedom of motion. Ditto with the Ascendancy, now he's under the control of the Chiss military and political system. So it's not that he has changed, it's just you're seeing a different side of him and you're seeing how he deals with limited ability to do what he needs, what he wants to do, and what he feels needs to be done. We see this with other people. My wife is a very good organizer. And if people get out of her way, she can organize things. But sometimes somebody's got their idea of this and no, it'd be easier that way, but you're kind of in charge of this area. But people who say they have no talent, you start questioning them and, oh, I can draw pictures. Well, that's a talent. No, it's easy. It's easy for you because you've got the talent for that. Organization, you can do that. Military, Thrawn can see what needs to be done. Other people who have jurisdiction over him may not see that. I think I've got a quote in one of I think Thrawn, one of his quotes, something like, a great commander can create a tactic. A less gifted commander can recognize it. Further down is someone who has to be shown to recognize it as a good tactic. And there are some who will never see it as a good tactic at all. And that works with any field of endeavor. And I imagine, yes, Thrawn is very frustrated by some of this stuff. Fortunately, he's got friends who can help guide him through the labyrinth of the politics that he just does not deal with well.
So I wanted to touch base what you were saying about building off if you've only written those books for reading Legends for the first time and seeing your writing then versus the New Thrawn trilogy. It is interesting to see how much your writing has evolved over time. How do you feel that your writing has evolved in that time period? And are there things that you're proud of that you've gained new skills over time, like whether it's like writing women or people of color? How do you feel that you've changed as a writer in this time?
See, I don't see myself as having changed at all, but then I've lived through it. If you read the Thrawn trilogy and then the later stuff, that's, 30 years difference. I don't know, I think I've gotten smoother at it. I think the plotting is better. I may be writing women better. I thought I wrote them pretty good before. One of the advantages, you talk about people of color, I don't have to do that in a novel. I'm very light on description because I want each reader to be able to envision themselves as the hero of the story. That's what I liked to do when I was reading growing up. And if there was no description of this protagonist, I could visualize myself being in that story. If they were described as a 6'3" Schwarzeneggian blonde Nordic, it was harder to do that. So I don't do much description. So if you see Eli as a person of color, great, go for it. If you see him as a southern redneck white, I didn't say one way or the other, so enjoy it. Once you go into comics and TV, of course, you now have to make that decision. But these are characters, they're not part of groups per se. And that's what I want to do. These are characters, enjoy them for what they are. If you see something of yourself in it, great. That's the idea of how the writer connects with the reader. You're seeing something of yourself in the characters. You're seeing something of your ambitions, your weaknesses, your strengths, and that's what makes the reader connect with the story. So I want to make that as easy as possible for the reader to do.
Did you ever put any of yourself into a character?
I'm stuck probably with some of that in general. I don't deliberately set out to do it, but if I look back, okay, yeah, I'm pretty good at this tactical writing stuff like Thrawn, but I really don't do politics very well. So in that sense, Thrawn is, to some extent, a reflection of me. On the other hand, I seem to write the politics for everybody who is not handicapped like that in the books reasonably well. So no, I don't deliberately put myself in, but since I'm writing it, it's going to come in whether I plan it or not.
On the author panel yesterday, you mentioned how if you could go back, you maybe wouldn't have made Thrawn's name so complicated. And then you went and you made the Chiss Ascendancy, and you gave us 9 ruling families who all have these core names, and you had to continue making up all. So you just dove in more. You decided to double down.
I have to. I have no choice. I'm not going to rewrite what I've done. And I tried very hard, as much as possible, to keep the legends, stories, and details consistent with what I'm doing in the canon stuff. There are some places that it won't work. Thrawn does not come back visit the Empire between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I had that in one of the books. So some of that stuff is gone. But as much as possible, and that involves the character of Thrawn being the same. So I'm certainly not going to go back and change the core name stuff. But yeah, if I had realized I'm going to have a book where every member of his family has a TH at the first part of their core name, I would have reconsidered all of that.
Did you try to think up for the new families that you had created? Were there any brainstorming sessions to keep them simpler, or was it just like, nope, they're all going to be complicated?
It's all going to be this way. I will make all the core names as visually distinctive and sound distinctive as I can, so when you're reading it, you don't get confused. But yeah, I had all these families. I had each family, all the people in it are going to have these sounds, letters at the beginning of their core name. So, okay, that was a different challenge than I'd expected. I would have thought differently of that if I'd known this is where we were going. But this is it, so another challenge for the Green Hornet or something.
We're not going to get a Chiss named Steve anytime soon.
I could make up. I've actually people have asked me to make up Chiss names for them, and what I do basically, I take part of the last name, part of the first name, and then weave in their given name as the core name. So you could have a Steve.
Please make a Steve.
But don't expect one anytime soon. I think that'd get bounced by Lucasfilm. What, Steve? And Biff? No, you cannot have Biff. Sorry.
Really?
I think that's a little too close to Back to the Future, and I think would probably get sued by Spielberg or somebody. No, let's see. He just did the third one. Never mind. Somebody would not like that.
Oh.
Oh yeah, Aralani would do very well as a lead character. Commodore Farrow from the Empire. Aralani's got the advantage that Eli Vanto will be with her, and a lot of fans of Eli out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
My boy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the characters have built up enough fan recognition that, again, the Thrawn donut, where Thrawn is not present, but all these other characters are working together, I think that would do well. Again, it's persuading Lucasfilm of that.
I think that would do great. What do you, I'm trying to think of what you would call it, though, if it would still have like the Thrawn subtitle, or if it would be Thrawnless, or
Thrawnless,
I think that's what Candace said.
not in Seattle. Thrawnless in Seattle would not be good. Ascendancy Challenge, or we'd come up with some kind of overall title. But yeah, we can. Titles are easy. It's pitching it and getting the people who own the property to sign off on it.
Listen, I want Thrawnless in Seattle. I'm still waiting for my Star Wars rom-com. First and foremost, give it to me.
I don't think I'm the right author to do that. There are other authors who would do that much better than I do.
Delilah would write an excellent rom-com. But in the Thrawn Donut story, what medium would you like to see that? Like live action or animation?
Oh, I'd love to see anything live action. I would love to do any of the Thrawn stuff. I would write a new Thrawn screenplay for them if they wanted, or consult, write a story that they might turn a real screenwriter loose on. Animation is always a second best choice. I'm happy to do animation if that's what they want to do. But yeah, I have scenes. Most of my books, if you probably noticed, are fairly visual. I can envision how this battle is going. I can envision this confrontation between these two people. So I think they would do well in a movie scenario. Okay, I'm getting into the characters' heads more in a book than I could in a movie. I can fix that. I can get it all in expression, dialogue, action, which is what you've got in a movie. But yeah, if they approached me to work on a movie or anything, tell me what you want, what era, what characters, I can come up with a story for that. As it almost 50 years that I've been doing this thing.